Yeah, ultimately it is. I mean, Kelly's point is that, more plays give you more opportunities to score more points. And so by running a lot of plays and, running those plays quickly and up-tempo, that increases your number of plays. It also gives you some advantages in terms of, defenses can't change their personnel as effectively. They can't match up the way they would like to. If you got a formation that's working against them and they think, boy, it'd be great to get another linebacker in there, another defensive back out of there, they can't make that change if you're running the up-tempo stuff and you're doing it right. The trouble is when you're doing the up-tempo stuff and you are not getting first downs and you're doing 3 and outs that last, 40 seconds, which is what they've been doing, then your defense is all of a sudden, going back on the field, less than a minute after they were out there for a long time. So, when it's not working well, this offense, it really looks ugly. And it looks ugly in every phase of it. The running game looks bad. The passing game, kind of keys off the running game. So that looks bad. The whole up-tempo thing doesn't work if you're not getting first down. So then that looks bad. So when it's going well and it's going up-tempo and it's moving fast and it's the other team's defense that's wearing down, then it looks really good. When it's not going well, everything falls apart. So it's a combination of things. It's a little bit of a high wire act to run the offense this way. And if you get to the other side, it looks good. And if you fall off, you just hope there's a net. And sometimes the defense can't provide that net.
Yeah, and Phil, I guess one question would be, look, they scored 29 points a game last year, was 5th best in the league. They scored 27 points a game in his first year. That was 2nd best in the league. They've chopped off about 10 points per game. So is the scheme figured out? Is that not working? Or is this a matter of they don't have the talent?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of things. But, I mean, the first thing that we actually know, I mean, the thing that we can actually point a finger to and put our finger on and say we know this for sure is that they changed the personnel. And, I don't think that's something you can ignore. And that doesn't mean that, they can't get better or they can't improve with the personnel that they have. But it does mean that, Andy Reid was here and they built a team with, some pretty, high draft picks. Guys like Jeremy Maclin, LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, they're all on draft picks. And, those are guys that you invested in and were a key part of what you did. And when Kelly got here, those guys were here, and he used those guys to great effect. I mean, LaShawn McCoy led the NFL in rushing. Maclin last year and Jackson the year before led the team in receiving, had the best seasons of their own careers. So there was talent here, and Kelly used that talent effectively. He decided, to clean house with that talent, basically, and bring in his own people, or people that he identified as superior talent, at least for his scheme. And so far, it's really hard to make an argument that that is working. I mean, you can't really point to anything and say, boy, they're really better here than they were the last 2 years with the guys that Kelly inherited. So, again, it doesn't mean that group can't, come together, develop some chemistry and improve. But what we know right now, with a 1-3 record, the running game not working at all, pretty much for most of the 4 games. With all that combined, it's hard to say that Kelly's plans are working out particularly well.
No, Phil, let me ask you this question then. The skill position players, if there was better blocking with the offensive line, are the changes in the skill position players in other words, do they have the skill position players to run this system? Is it just come down to the offensive line, or do they not have the right skill position players?
Well, I think we saw the offensive line really play effectively. We could answer that question a little more, decisively. I think I really have doubts about the skill position players that they've assembled as compared to the ones that they gave up on. I think it's very reasonable to have doubts about them, but because the offensive line has not been effective, it's very hard to make a final judgment. If you could go, if you could pick Sam Bradford and DeMarco Murray and Jordan Matthews and go back to the 2013 season where the offensive line was completely healthy and really effective, then we could, plug those guys in and see what they look like. You maybe run some kind of computer model and make that work. But we can't do that. Unfortunately, we have to look at, what we've got in front of us. The offensive line has not been good. And it's a real question why. I mean, obviously, Kelly made the decision to get rid of 2 veteran, reliable guards and bring in, plug in guys that were already here. He didn't even add any talent to the offensive line. He just subtracted some and just kind of went with what he had, so that the backups became starters. Guys who weren't on the team became backups. That's not a good way to get better on your offensive line. I did a piece that I think either ran this morning or yesterday. And it all runs together now. But I looked around the NFC East, and you look at the offensive lines in Washington, New York, and Dallas, and the investment in, first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks, some third-round picks, but really first- and second-round picks, and, real free agents you spent some money on. I mean, all 3 of those teams have built their offensive lines, around the cornerstones of some, high first-round picks. Right now the Eagles' offensive line, they looked really smart before because, they had a bunch of guys that were, undrafted free agents or even Jason Peters, who was a big free agent signing when he came over from Buffalo. He came into the league as an undrafted free agent tight end. The fact that he turned into a tremendous offensive left tackle in Buffalo and then came here, that's a pretty unusual situation. Usually you got to build your line, by investing those resources. Kelly hasn't drafted one in 2 years, hasn't signed anybody of any note in free agency in the 3 years he's been here to play offensive line. So the line is not as good as it should be. Jason Kelce has flat out said that he is not playing as well as he should. It's hard to really gauge what the center is doing from our vantage point most of the time. But if he says so, I believe him. And, it looks like when you see some all 22 angles and that kind of stuff, it looks like Kelce's getting pushed around or he's going one way and the guy he probably should have blocked is the guy coming in and tackling the running back in the backfield. So, the offensive line is not good enough right now. And now it's all banged up. You got both tackles are injured. The guys that are playing guard or were backups. Kelce says he's not playing that well. If you get the offensive line right, then and only then can you start to really find out about the quarterback, running backs, and all the other skill position guys.
Phil, and I think that's a good, fair point, too. The theory was, hey, Murray's going to come in. He's a downhill runner. There will be less dancing behind the line of scrimmage. The problem has been there is no place to run downhill. The guards are getting pushed back into him. And then a big factor for me when I watch and looking at the All-22 is that end is not respecting the quarterback's ability to hold the ball and run, and they are just crashing in, and it seems that there are 3 guys 2 yards deep every single time. So I think that is why it's been hard to find out if Murray is the fit that we all anticipated he would be, is that those guards. But that end on that side, it seems that in the shotgun, that quarterback is supposed to be a threat. But in this particular offense, there is no threat from the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's a big, Kelly is very stubborn about this point. He's always said that, hey, I structure my offense around the players I have, especially the quarterback. If I don't have a running quarterback, then the offense doesn't doesn't revolve around that. But when he's been really effective, he's had a guy that can at least move. I mean, Nick Foles was not a very mobile quarterback either. And, I agree that the lack of that threat from the quarterback position is affecting the running game. It's definitely, a weapon that's been taken away from the arsenal, and that has, domino effect on the rest of the offense. However, with Nick Foles in 2013, Sam Bradford may be the one guy that's, a little more mobile than Nick Foles. I mean, Nick Foles may be the one guy that Sam Bradford could be more mobile than, I guess is a better way to put it. Nick Foles didn't move at all and did not move well. And every now and again he would take off when it was a lane there. Like Bradford had the one run against Washington. That, if there's nobody there and he's got a wide open field ahead of him, yeah, he could go run for 10 yards. Every quarterback in the league can probably do that, but it's not a threat. It's not anything the defense has to worry about. But they function pretty well with Foles doing that. And the reasons for that, well, LaShawn McCoy was there, and he would make that one guy that maybe got to the backfield, he might make that guy miss. He might run a little bit east and west and not the way Chip Kelly prefers, but he was sometimes doing that around the guy who would be a tackle, if he didn't get around him. So, The pieces that were in place 2 years ago when they were the most effective they've been under Kelly, those pieces are mostly gone now. And this is the Chip Kelly team that Chip Kelly has put together and built, and running the system that Chip Kelly has designed for those players. So if you're seeing things not working out very well, there's really only one guy to point to, and that's the head coach / general manager / reinventor of football.
Phil Sheridan's with us, ESPN.com's NFL Nation. Well, the GM and the coach have to make a decision, and as you write over at ESPN.com's NFL Nation, the decision is not getting easier on Bradford. Through the quarter pole of the season, how would that decision go if they had to make one?
Boy, that's a great question. I mean, I think if you were, purely going on, all right, let's take our, if you go out, if they said, yeah, you can go out and, pick, we'll give you a list of 5 quarterbacks, you can pick one of those guys. I think they'd probably, really look closely at that list and try to find somebody else. I mean, I think they would look at this and go, you know what, nice guy, got some skill, but he's really not, the guy that's going to work well in this offense. It doesn't feel like that at this point. Now, again, he showed flashes, Sunday. If he plays more like that as we go along here, and he gets protection, finds some targets down the field, and does a little more of that. If that happens, this could change. But based on the 4 games we've seen, I do not see this team, deciding. And Kelly's making the decision here. I don't see him deciding to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to lock up Sam Bradford with a 5-year, $100 million contract. I mean, that's the market for quarterbacks, who are legitimate, Super Bowl caliber guys, or even close to that. Sam Bradford is not that kind of guy right now, based on these 4 games. If he changes that, then that's fine. They have to the end of the year to decide what they're going to do. If you got to make a call right now, I would think that they'd start looking around at whatever the next option might be. And then you run into trouble, too, because if you're Chip Kelly going into the offseason deciding, hey, I'm going to go find a way to acquire Robert Griffin III or Colin Kaepernick or whoever the next year's version of Sam Bradford is, a guy that's his organization's given up on a little bit. I mean, you can do that every year. There's always a guy that some team's given up on. Going from, has-been to has-been, so to speak. Some of those guys might turn out to be great quarterbacks in time, and even Bradford could still develop into a better player, but, doing that every year is a recipe for disaster.
Phil, we know that Chip Kelly has kind of said, and he humorously today, not so humorously to him, but indicated that it's tough to be productive when you're not on the field, meaning, when his offense isn't out there, they can't give Murray the ball more because they're not out there. Is Murray Chip Kelly seems like he wants to get the running game more going and get those guys, but is Murray the guy that they need to get going? Is Murray really the guy to kickstart this offense? Is that the guy that they need to hang their hat on?
It seems that way to me. I mean, that's the guy they invested in. Now, if they had paid Ryan Matthews, a $40 million contract and DeMarco Murray, a fraction of that as they did the other way around, if they did that, then okay, then it would be Matthews. I mean, Kelly's telling today that, it only looks like Matthews is more effective because he was playing in the game where they ran the ball well, as if they were running the ball well. It had nothing to do with Ryan Matthews. It's like, they blocked a little better against the Jets or whatever it was. The matchups were better. That may all be part of it, but also part of it was that Ryan Matthews really ran well. He really ran effectively. He was really aggressive, and he had a lot to do with why they were successful running the ball against the Jets. Saying that, he just happened to be the guy in the game when they had success running the ball is kind of ridiculous. And Kelly said that today. I don't know if you even realized quite what he was saying as it came out of his mouth, and I think, there was a moment where I just thought, did he really just say that, he just happened to be the guy running the ball when we ran it well? The running back does matter somewhat. It's not like, you see really good running backs with bad lines or injured lines, not be as good as they have been or have been in the past. This is a guy that, DeMarco Murray, he had the best line in front of him in the league last year, and he led the NFL in rushing, 1,800 yards plus. He was a guy that, dominated games. That guy still, he's the same guy. I mean, he's the same guy in a different color uniform. If they can get him going, clearly the offense will work a lot better. The fact that they haven't been able to get him going, some of that is the line has not been as good as they expected. And some of that is play calling and sort of philosophy. I mean, that game against Washington early on, they had the one and draw play that went for a long run. But otherwise, Washington was getting like 2-3 yards a pop in the running game. But they just kept mixing runs in. And at the end of the game, they broke some big runs that were part of that 90-yard drive. The Eagles, if they get behind by a score or it's not really looking effective in the first quarter, then Kelly kind of goes away from it and does not get right back to it. And that troubles him because, if you just keep giving DeMarco Murray the ball, you may look at it and go, all right, 3 yards to carry, 2 yards to carry. We're not going to get enough, to warrant continuing to do this. But the other argument is if you keep doing it and you wear the defense down and you get your back into a rhythm and you give your offensive linemen a little bit of a swagger because they're starting to get to push, that gets your running game going in a way. Sometimes just pounding it and taking a few so-so runs or short runs or even a couple of losses, just sticking with it is the thing that you can, it's a statement that you can make, that you have confidence in everybody, and that gets everybody going. And I think if they don't do that with DeMarco Murray, at some point there's going to be a little bit of a breakdown here because Murray, he kind of said he'd like to see the ball more the other day, but he kind of softened that statement. He surrounded it with a lot of other talk about how much he likes the offense and likes playing here. If it keeps going like this, you're not going to hear that other part. You're just going to hear the part about how he's not getting the ball enough, and things are going to break down at some point.
Yeah, I agree, and it seems like the premise when they brought Murray in here, Phil, was, hey, we're okay getting 2 or 3 yards. We just don't want to – we'd rather have 2nd and 7 than 2nd and 13. So just get your 2 or 3 yards. Let's get right back on the line, and let's go right back at it. Set up a 3rd and 4. It seemed like that was the whole reason they brought in Murray was, hey, you don't have to have a home run on every single play. Just get your 2 or 3, get right back on the line. Let's wear these guys down. Let's tire them out. And it seems that they've gotten away from that.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly it. And, LaShawn McCoy may have been a guy that would occasionally go ahead and lose 4 yards for you, but he could also break those tackles that we're talking about and turn a play that might have been a 3 or 4 yard loss into a 20-yard game because he got past whoever the edge defender was and got outside the containment and just went. With Murray, we're seeing more negative yards than I thought possible, given his style and the idea that he was supposed to hit holes quickly and be through the line into the second level so fast. I mean, he's had more negative runs and longer, like deeper holes than LaShawn McCoy ever did. So, it is really not functioning well at all, and it's not functioning according to the plan as it was explained to everybody. They basically just got rid of the best running back in franchise history based on numbers, and still in his prime, and just said goodbye to him. We don't need him. That doesn't look like a good move right now. You just can't look at this and say this was the plan because it's not working according to the plan.
Well, also injuries have been an issue, obviously. Byron Maxwell, I thought interesting stuff with him. He had a quad. He said he's having trouble running, starting and stopping. Peters, quad problem too. There was some talk today from Chip that basically said, well, Peters can't go. Lane might have to play left tackle. So are those two guys the guys that everybody's kind of keeping their eye on the most? Peters and Matt. Well, Lane's got his own problems too, but I guess he's going to play.
Lane says he'll play. He's going to take a painkiller shot and play. But he said basically, I'll go as long as I can. So you got that problem too. You got a guy that's playing with a sprained knee and a sprained ankle on the same leg, and if you're going to ask him to move from right tackle, to left tackle, that left leg now becomes his outside leg instead of his inside leg. I mean, it changes. It's kind of how you get leverage, how you drive, how you move, all the things you got to do as an offensive lineman. That all becomes reversed from right tackle to left tackle, and whether how that goes with your left leg not being that strong or that comfortable, that's another whole set of problems. But yeah, I think Peters, Maxwell, they're probably the most significant injuries. And Michael Kendricks again. He was not practicing today. He was out with the guys who were working with the training staff instead of working with the coaches. That's a bad sign for them too, because with Kiko Alonso out and Kendricks was not able to go. He tried to go against the Jets. He lasted a couple of plays and was off the field. They've been very lucky that Jordan Hicks has been so reliable as a backup in that inside linebacker position. But with D'Amico Ryans, he's a little older and has had some injuries. I mean, they're one injury away from really being in a pit inside linebacker. So Kendricks is worth watching as well.
Yeah, and I guess the offensive line, too. I mean, last week they had 7 active. They were down to the last 5. If somebody else got hurt, it would have been an ugly situation, and obviously we'll see how they handle that this week with guys possibly moving all over the place. Phil Sheridan, ESPN.com's NFL Nation, plenty more to cover later on, but for more, go to @SheridanScribe and check him out at ESPN.com. Click on the Eagles NFL Nation section. Phil, always a pleasure, pal.
Yeah, enjoyed it, Mike.